Nick Kyrgios is no stranger to controversy, and the Aussie tennis star finds himself in hot water yet again. This time, of course, because of the fact that he's said some pretty interesting things about Stefanos Tsitsipas. Now, it is worth noting that Kyrgios managed to upset Tsitsipas in Wimbledon and knock the Greek man out of the Grand Slam, but it isn't quite the match that has gotten everyone's attention, but the fact that both of these two have been sniping at each other in the media. And obviously, even the match itself was quite dominated by some pretty bad-tempered incidents that happened in between, involving both players, of course. And let's just say that what they have said about each other in public, these two guys aren't going to be sending each other Christmas cards anytime soon. So what exactly is it that's happened, and is it really deserving of so much hue and cry from both players? Well, that's exactly what we're going to check out right now. But first, before we get into what was said, let us look at what exactly has happened. Now, to begin with, Kyrgios had asked for Tsitsipas to be defaulted after one particular incident, and that incident was that Tsitsipas in anger actually hit the tennis ball into the stands, although it is worth noting that he didn't actually end up injuring anyone directly. The ball didn't hit a spectator directly, because if it did, he most certainly would have in fact been defaulted. Now, this is something that Kyrgios continued to argue about as the match wore on. In fact, there were quite a few instances of him talking to the umpires and officials, saying that, I'm surprised that this Tsitsipas wasn't defaulted. Now, this was something that after a while quite clearly got to Tsitsipas, because he lost his patience and he once again ended up hitting the ball into the stands. Now, when he did that, he was actually given a penalty point by the chair umpire for a repeat offense. Because remember, if it happens one time and no one gets hit, it's not seen as a major offense. You can get away with it as long as you don't do it again. But Tsitsipas did in fact hit the ball into the stands a second time, and because of that, he ended up getting a penalty point, and that's something that clearly didn't sit very well with him. And more often than not, it seemed like Kyrgios was getting into his head. In fact, it was best exemplified by at one point when Kyrgios actually sarcastically applauded Tsitsipas because Tsitsipas ended up hitting a backhand right out of the court. So obviously, and we know Kyrgios is someone who likes to wind up. He enjoys, playing these psychological warfare mind games with his opponents. He's not exactly someone who'll shy away from telling anyone how is it that he feels about certain things. That's exactly what was happening. But to make things worse, Tsitsipas ended up losing the match despite winning the first set. He lost 3 straight sets on the trot thereafter, the last of them coming in a tiebreak. As a result, he's out of the Grand Slam. But if anything, the focus hasn't really been on the match or how poorly it was that Tsitsipas may or may not have played, or how well it was that Kyrgios may or may not have played. The focus has instead been on who said what to whom. Now, let's first talk about what it is that Tsitsipas said, and he wasn't very kind to Kyrgios. In fact, what I've summed up here is basically just a very small portion of the things he said, but I'm going to read it out to you guys. Anyway, he said that Kyrgios was probably a bully at school, and he also has a very evil side to him, which can do a lot of harm to the people around him. Obviously, as I said, he's not holding back, but as I said, also, this is just a very small portion of what it is he said. He said that, he was probably a bully at school, and that the tour needs to come together and actually take some action against Kyrgios, because such behavior, well, it's not really okay. And he knows for a fact that Kyrgios has done this for a very long time. Now, of course, it is worth saying that he does have a bit of a point in that regard, because Kyrgios, just in this very Grand Slam, ended up copping a fine for apparently spitting at a fan. So again, Kyrgios is not exactly someone who's going to be winning Behavior of the Year awards, let's just put it that way. But Kyrgios in this case saw nothing wrong with what it is that he was asking the umpires. In fact, if you go through his response, well, he actually hit out at Tsitsipas and did not apologize for his actions at all. What he said was that Tsitsipas is so soft to come in here and say that I bullied him. If he's affected by that, then that's what's holding him back. Now, obviously, as I said, not light words said by Kyrgios, but Kyrgios did also say that, if it was me in the position that Tsitsipas was in, and I had hit a ball into the stands, I would have probably been defaulted a set. He also hit back at something else that Tsitsipas said. Tsitsipas says that, Kyrgios is not someone who's well liked in the locker room. and that, everyone needs to be taking a stand against him. Kyrgios said that, I have plenty of friends on the tour, I'm good. It's Tsitsipas who's not the well-liked one. Now, what exactly is something that can be expected to come out of this entire debacle? Well, that's a little harder to say, and that's something that we're going to look at right about now. Now, the truth is there's not much that can actually be said or done about anything that's happened between these two gentlemen, simply because of the fact was that it wasn't really something that was outside of the rules. I mean, yeah, you can say that Kyrgios maybe should not have argued with the umpires as much, but you can also make a point that, Kyrgios is someone who's known to kind of focus not just on the tennis aspect of the game, but also on things outside of it to throw his opponent off, and that is exactly what he ended up doing to Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas is someone who, of course, has played Kyrgios in the past. In fact, these two clashed at the Halle Open earlier before Wimbledon, and it was again Kyrgios who ended up winning. So you could say that Kyrgios is, in a way, and that's something that, by the way, Kyrgios reminded Tsitsipas of even later on in public. He's saying that, if I had lost to a player twice on the trot, I too would probably be worried and upset, and looking for things beyond just actually what happened in the match. Now, the simple fact is that Kyrgios is a bit of a character, and you can like that, you can hate that, but at the end of the day, you should and always judge him on his tennis. More often than not, he has been judged on his tennis, because with many people, they see Kyrgios as something of wasted potential. Because remember, his career high rank of number 13 came in 2016. It's 2022. He's 27 years old, and many people still actually think that he should be doing much better than he actually is right now. Yet, the fact is, he's having a pretty good Wimbledon as things stand, and may very well be in with an outside chance of winning the Grand Slam. Yes, you can have disagreements and issues with how it is that he behaved, and they would be valid points, but again, this is not something new and it's not something unknown. Everyone in the tennis world has known that Kyrgios has in fact always been a bit of a character. He's a bit of a maverick, he does things differently. So the issue here isn't really, and the simple fact is, he didn't really do anything illegal. So he wasn't exactly pushing the boundaries in terms of the rules. In fact, if anything, it was Tsitsipas who was the one caught a foul of breaking the rules. So I understand where it is that Tsitsipas's frustrations come from, but perhaps he should be more focused on the fact that he ended up losing a match where he took the first set and then lost 3 straight, sets thereafter. The issue at this point isn't really how Kyrgios is behaving, because when he does misbehave, he is more often than not reprimanded. He didn't really do anything wrong here. And for Tsitsipas to come out and suggest otherwise, well, again, he's just saying things that most people know and on which the focus really shouldn't be, especially if Kyrgios is not doing anything wrong. And thank you all so much for joining us for this particular video. If you enjoy what it is that we do, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and last but not the least, tap the bell icon so that you know every single time we're going live or we are uploading a new video for your enjoyment. As always, I've been Shane Dias. I've been really appreciative of your company, and I'll be with you guys once again on screen very soon. Bye-bye.